Welcome to the FIREchat podcast. I am your host, Rich Rice. Today I have on the show Breanna Williams, who happens to be a designer, interior designer with a lot of real estate experience, and she's also one of the sponsors of the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, one of our newest sponsors. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
And Bree,
Hi.
it's good to have you.
Hey,
Finally,
thanks. We've been
trying to get this going since we started the podcast, and for one reason or another, we had to keep canceling on each other. So
yeah, well, at least
it was mostly my fault.
It's June. You're not snowed in,
exactly.
So you're not stuck.
Exactly.
In
Is
the
that what it
mountains
was?
for a week? Yeah, that was when you were stuck.
Yeah, that was an ordeal. We're not going to go into that though.
So put it behind us.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, it's good to have you on. Thank you for being a sponsor. I know it's been there's been a lot going on with the club the last 6 months, and you've been a great part of it and helping us design the clubhouse and everything like that, and even this podcast room, which I guess you can't really see. But no, it's been really great working with you.
I thought we were in Hawaii.
Oh, that's right. You designed all these palm trees.
Yep.
They look great.
They flow nicely
really
in the breeze.
Picked those out nicely. So, okay. So, obviously the podcast itself is a financial independence through real estate. That's where the FIRE comes from, and FIREchat. But I kind of switch things up every once in a while. So, let's start today with what got you into design? Like, is there a story there? You always liked it? Like tell me what made you say I'm going to be a designer.
I've always wanted to be an interior designer. I can tell you, being 12 years old, my dad used to. Well, first and foremost, we used to go to every model home that was open in our neighborhood. So weekends were model homes all the time, all the bedrooms. And my brother and I would run around and be like, "This is my bedroom," and he wants to be in this bedroom. And so that kind of right there, I think, exposed me to a lot of different types of design. And from that, my parents both kind of got their own ideas, and they essentially doubled the square foot of their home. My dad did all of it with his hands, and he kind of designed it all, and then my mom decorated it all. And all throughout that, they always gave me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. So I was always able to pick out my own bedroom and design my own room every couple of years. And
that's cool.
I distinctly remember him, building what's now their living room. And I sat on this giant pile of lumber, and I had a sketchbook or a notebook, and I just started sketching what the room was going to look like. And so I just kind of always wanted to do it.
That's cool. So your dad he did the work. Mm-hmm. And then your mom did a lot of the design? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So my dad's done, for obviously years now, he's done his own houses. Him and his brothers, they all do, they do their own houses. A couple of my family members, aunts and uncles, have investment properties. And so my dad's usually the one that's out there working on their investment properties. Yeah. He has plenty of friends who are in real estate investment as well. And he's helped all of them throughout their times on fix and flips. Buy and hold, you name it.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't realize you had the whole so much family history in real estate.
I know.
Or people that were involved in it. That's really cool. We used to do I remember doing the same thing with my parents. My mom especially loved we would go through mobile homes or model homes. I think my dad too. Yeah, we did that. That was always fun. Do you still do that?
Not as much with 4 kids running around. My oldest, too, they do like to go to model homes. Mm-hmm. And even when I was in college and my husband and I started living on our own, we would do model homes all the time. I mean, when I was in college, that's how I pulled a lot of the inspiration for, my thesis projects and things like that. So we used to go to model homes all the time. And, with toddlers, not so much, because they're going to grab everything and touch everything. And it's just not fun.
Well, I mean, there'd be a good test for how well that they designed all this stuff and actually put it all together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they are trying to sell to families, right?
Yeah, but I just don't want to have to pay for anything that gets broken.
Yeah, that's true.
And they do. They want to be employed by Mumford Design, so they're going to touch everything and try to reorganize it all, and they do it all the time in my house.
Right on. So did you go to school for design?
I did,
okay.
Yes.
What is that? I don't know how design school works. So
I went to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. When I was a freshman in high school, I was in a home ec class, and our teacher took us on a field trip to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. And it's just this really cool building in downtown LA, and you're surrounded by a park and all the skyscrapers, and there's industry really all around you. And so we got to go to that, and I kind of right away, I think I was like 14 years old, and I'm like, this is where I'm going to go to school.
That's cool.
And when I was 16, I applied online, and as a junior in high school, I got to go in and do the application process, and they make you do like a little project just to get into the program. And so I got to do that, and I was accepted when I was 16. So my senior year at high school was so easy. I just coasted. I think I took like 3 or 4 classes the entire year because I was already in college. All my friends were trying to get everything done and find out where they were going to go. And I was already in college. It was nice.
That's cool. That's really cool. That's awesome that you knew like that young, that like that early, that's what you wanted to do. And so you can tell you're obviously passionate about it. This isn't something that was just kind of new and you kind of fell into. Like you've been, since you were a little kid, like you love doing this. So good for you. That's really cool that you were able to keep doing that and, not go be an accountant or something.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess I'm really lucky in that too, because I didn't have to go through the like, oh, do I like this job? Do I not like this job? Don't get me wrong. I worked retail for like over 15 years. And so, and I knew that wasn't something that I wanted to do the rest of my life. But even within the retail industry, I was able to find that segment of interior design. So I got to do interior design in retail. And so, yeah, I've just been really blessed with doing something that I really love, and it doesn't always feel like work.
Yeah,
so that's nice.
That's always a positive. And nothing against accountants. I mean, there's a lot of people that love numbers and are great accountants, and they love being accountants.
And they're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I just find those people, and then I can hire those people because I don't want to. That's not me.
I know, right? I know. I have accountants on my brain because that's all feel like I've been dealing with for the last, 3 weeks now, trying to get all my books sorted. Yeah.
Hey, your bookkeeper could be your best friend or your worst enemy. So you might as well find one that has a passion for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather be in business with my best friend than my worst enemy.
For sure. So, like design wise, I know you just did a whole presentation on at the club and was it last week?
Yeah.
Last week's Fire Focus event. I forget what happened yesterday. So, but
That's
last week,
too.
I think you had I think we had 60 people here or something like that. And you gave a presentation on designing guest avatars, right?
Correct.
So you don't have to give the whole presentation again, but let's touch on that a little bit on what is a guest avatar?
Yeah. So when you're in the rental strategies of either short-term rental or medium-term rental, you're going to hear a lot about guest avatars. And everybody for the most part recommends knowing who your guest avatar is. And ultimately it's no different than any other business marketing strategy. Target knows who their ideal target market is. Kohl's knows who their ideal target market is, and they know what their target market is looking to see when they walk into their stores. So it's essentially the same thing for your rental properties. Who's renting your property, and what do they want to see when they walk in your doors? What do they want to see when they're looking at your listing online, whether that's short-term rental or mid-term rental? And for me, I just found I always wanted to base my business on, like our tagline is, we create homes that are worth living in. And while I really love short-term rental design, I've done it, and it can be so fun. And it really lets me kind of go way out there and do something really wild and fancy. Medium-term rentals, people are looking for short-term homes. So that's, for me, that's why I love it. Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I love that, because that's my whole purpose for what I do is just to, like I said, it's creating homes that are worth living in. I've had homes that I lived in that sucked, for the lack of a better term. I mean, when you go in there and you never want to go home, so you're really only there to lay your head, and that's about it.
Yeah.
At one point, we had this awful apartment, and we didn't even want to sleep there. Like, we didn't want to eat there, so we went out to eat for every meal, and it wasn't a home, in my opinion. So yeah, I have a little bit of a passion of creating those spaces that feel like home. So with medium-term rentals, you're able to do that. But the question is, how do you design a home for somebody else? What are they looking to achieve with their home? What do they want to see in their space? And I think that's different for every person. So if you're a traveling nurse, you may have different needs that need to be met versus somebody who's working from home, or versus somebody who maybe is a traveling athlete and, exercise is really important to them, or just staying fit during their training season, or potentially leaving the training facility and then coming home to continue some type of regiment. So those are types of things that you would want to know. Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to target specifically, traveling, athletes, whether professional or, college level or something like that, because maybe you're near a school and you want to target specifically the athletes that are at that school, then that's something to think about, is including amenities within the property that they can take advantage of when they get back, like a sauna or, like a hot cold tub or something like that. Something to think about.
I never thought about athletes. That's
Yeah.
cool. What what you said about, I guess I never really thought of it on short-term rental and midterm, is like because everyone tries to like one up the it's like a big one up game on like who can make their house more outlandish and exciting, like
exciting,
with
right?
like a shroom room or like like stuff like that. Or,
Yep. I think I've seen people now like out in Joshua Tree making their own golf courses in their backyard.
Yeah.
And
Really?
it's
That's crazy.
awesome. It's so cool. Or like mini golf and things like that. It's so cool. And that's still super fun to design. And when I'm on vacation, I'm probably going to want to stay at a place like that. But if I'm looking to live someplace away from home, then, there's certain emotional aspects of that. Sometimes you have a family that's somewhere else, and it's kind of hard to be away from them. And so anything that we can do to make that a little bit easier for them while they're traveling and on business, why wouldn't we, make that easier on our guests?
That's a good point. What, like on the midterm specifically, like, and you mentioned, if it was a traveling nurse or like if it was an athlete, like the hot cold tub, the workout center, or like stuff like that. How do you figure out like if that's, I mean, it makes sense, to design around that person, but how do you figure out like that they're actually using it? Like, is it just, do you look at the reviews or like what, like, I guess like, where's it, like, do you have a survey? Like what, like, how do you figure out that like, oh yeah. Cause and the reason I'm asking is, I put a short-term rental together with like an office, a dedicated office, but I really had no, like, I didn't really couldn't figure out like, are people actually using this office, or are they just sitting on their laptop on the couch? Like,
Yeah, I think once you've completed the property and you're listed and you're starting to get bookings coming in, I think you just ask your guests and say, hey, we put a lot of attention into that home office. Can you let me know if anything's missing while you're using it? And then they're going to tell
a good
you,
point. That's a really good
actually, I
question.
haven't used it yet, or whatever the case may be. Or, hey, just wanted to make sure that hot cold tub's working out for you. Do you need any extra towels, or, something? Just bring it up in some way, shape, or
nonchalantly,
form.
like,
Yeah. It doesn't have to be so,
what you think of the
forward, like,
office?
hey, we did this. What do you think? Do you like it? Should we put it in our next property?
Yeah, like a survey with like 1 to 3. Would you rate? How would you rate the office on a scale of 1 to 5?
And you could always do a guest satisfaction survey at checkout, regardless of what platform you're booking from, or whether it's direct booking or not. You can always give them a guest survey. As a matter of fact, if they're open to taking it, you can capture their email and then you can mark it back to them for return stays. So
I definitely like I mean, not that surveys don't serve their purpose, but I definitely like the other way of doing a little bit more nonchalantly to try and get the same result. Because I don't know about you, but when I take a survey and there's like 10 questions and they're like rate 1 to 5, like, I don't know if it's a 4 or like a 3 or like where you draw the line. Especially if it's 1 to 10, then I'm really lost. But, there's like a whole art of how to do surveys properly. That's like a whole thing in its own. And I don't know anything about, I mean, I have a little bit, but like, I'm not a survey writing pro, bless you.
Excuse me.
And, so I like the more casual, like, do you need any more towels for the hot? And they'll be like, I'm not really using it, or I love it. Yes, I need more towels, or, I like that.
Yeah, I always check in with my guests. So I co-host a medium-term rental. in Garden Grove, California. And so when my guest checks in, excuse me, when my guest checks in, generally within 2 to 3 days, I'm checking in with them and saying, hey, how's everything going? Is there anything that you need from me? And I like to include something specific. Like, for instance, if they're bringing a pet, I'll let them know, hey, I left a bag of dog treats and a little dog toy or a chew toy for Mac, like my current guest. Her dog's name is Mac. It's like, hey, I left some dog treats and a dog toy for Mac. I just want to make sure you saw them.
You named the dog.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Absolutely. Always. If people are traveling with their pets, that's part of their family. So I personally like to ask the names of all of the people that are traveling. So if I'm going to refer to somebody and say like, oh, your husband, Joe, or, oh, I know that you're staying with your mom and dad, like your mom, Sarah, or whatever the case may be. How's Sarah finding the mattress? I know that was a concern for her. Or, hey, I know that she really needed firm pillows. Like, what does she think about the pillows? So do we need to swap them out for something? So anyways, just checking in with them from the get-go to name something specific, let them know that it's personalized, that it's not just a chat bot. There's so many messages that you can totally automate, and it can be a chat bot and it's totally fine. But I think that check-in needs to be a little bit more personal.
Yeah, for sure.
And then on a medium-term stay, I will check in with them again another 1 to 2 weeks later. If there's an issue, I'm going to check in with them sooner to make sure that the issue is resolved. And if there's not an issue, then maybe in another 2 weeks or so, we'll check in. I recently had, she's over a month now, so in our property, so we did a mid-stay cleaning. So I checked in with her a day or two after the clean just to make sure that it was satisfactory to her and that everything was taken care of that she needed.
A mid-stay clean. I didn't know that people did that on the midterms. So
not everybody does, but I definitely think that it's one way to ensure that they're maintaining your property, as best as possible.
That's a good point.
Yeah, certainly. I did the property that I co-host now. Prior to me co-hosting it, it was a running midterm rental. And they had somebody who stayed for like 9 months, and this guy must have taken really hot showers. I mean, everything was rusted. And ultimately, if they had cleaned it, if the tenant had cleaned it more thoroughly or maybe more consistently, they could have avoided a lot of that maintenance issue.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, when he moved out, a lot of the stuff that was in the bathroom had to be redone.
Like the stainless and the chrome and all that?
Exactly.
Wow.
And then it also kind of keyed us into the fact that,
It's not
vent
properly
is
ventilated.
the vent probably needs to be upgraded, something a little bit more heavy duty, and then also checking the water heater to make sure that there's a cap on how hot we can make things. I mean, maybe he just took really hot showers. That's okay too. Maybe he wanted to use the bathroom like a steam room. I don't know, but people are living there, and I think let them live how they want to live. But if you can mediate that a little bit by heading in every once a month or something like that. If your cleaner's only going to charge you, $75 or $100, you can always tack that on to your monthly rate if you want to. But at the end of the day, if you have a profitable rental, then what's $100 to make sure that your property is staying maintained?
Yeah, for sure. It's the cost of doing business. Yeah, that's a really good point. What for the midterm, the actual guests, do they expect it to be cleaned?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So I have not had anybody that's expected it. I offered it to this particular guest because she originally booked a 40-day stay, and then she extended an additional 45 days. So when she did the extension, I offered that to her. So I also have an allotted budget for each guest stay for a welcome basket, and I include different things like I live in Menifee, so that's near Temecula wine country, and so we have a few different wine membership. So I included a bottle of Temecula wine. She's from the Midwest, so I just let her know, like, hey, about an hour and a half away is Temecula Valley. There's a lot of vineyards and wineries, and if you ever find yourself with nothing to do for a day, then you can always head out that way with your boyfriend, and you guys might like to stay there or to check it out. And so I brought her a bottle of wine from one of the wineries out there, and I made sure it was in the fridge and chilled, and I included a couple of pints of ice cream for her in the freezer, and then I did just like a bag of pasta and a jar of pasta sauce, and it's like, hey, dinner's on us tonight. Wine's in the fridge, it's chilled, and ice cream's in the freezer, and enjoy.
Nice.
And
I'm sure they appreciate that.
I think so. I mean, I also include a handwritten note and things like that. And those are things like you can
Don't
order
cost
it on
much.
Amazon, and your PM can just like put it all out when they go in to check the unit, or your cleaner can do it. Because it's a midterm rental, I personally like to go in. I'm only going in every couple of months, so I personally like to go in and inspect the unit myself, and
Yeah.
put that there. It's just a little bit more personal.
Yeah, and we did that on when I was running a short-term rental. We did that, for every guest, and either a bottle of wine or some cheeses or something from like the local market, the handwritten note, and I even do it for my long-term tenants.
Yeah, that's nice.
I just had one move in that had had like a 6-month-old baby, and because the grocery store, the roof collapsed during the storm, like I couldn't really get anything. And at the last minute, they moved in quicker than I was expecting. And, so we got him something that he's going to have to grow into, but we wrote on there like, he'll, hopefully he enjoys us in the future, kind of thing, and left them a bottle of wine it just because they're long-term, guests essentially, like residents, doesn't mean that they're, they can't get the same treatment.
Right.
I think that stuff is good for, long-term, long-term. You want them to take care of your house and feel welcome and feel home, right? Like
Right.
just because there's not, a bunch of stuff on the wall and furniture. I did leave them the couch. But I tried to leave them the beds, but they didn't want the beds.
They're
I was
like,
like,
no,
please,
we have a great
please.
bed. We're going to bring it.
I know. I
with
was like,
us."
please keep the beds. And, oh well, but, so what are you, what are you seeing as far as like the midterm and short-term game right now? Are you doing more short-terms versus more midterms, or is it kind of shifted?
Personally, I think because I speak about midterm rentals more often, more people are coming to me for midterm rentals. Midterm rentals are also, number one, they're a little bit versatile. So there are options for hybrid strategies. So if you're in an area where short-term rentals are allowed, you can always run that as a hybrid, where during the busier seasons you're running as an STR. During the slower seasons you're going to run it as a midterm rental. So that's always an option. But even still, medium-term rentals for newbie investors who don't have a lot of capital to put forth, you can get in a little bit less expensive. You're more likely to have a landlord be open to some type of master lease or rental arbitrage situation if you're doing a medium-term rental as opposed to a short-term rental. So they're a little easier to get in for newbie investors, which I do have a lot of first-time, investors that are doing this for the first time that are coming to me to look for who's my guest avatar, who should I be marketing to in this market, and what should I be listing it for, and things of that nature. So I kind of help them to perform that research and make sure that they're on the right track.
Gotcha. Is there yeah, I think people like, it's definitely becoming more talked about. And I know you've been talking about it more, but I also, I hear that term around a lot more. Because it seems like, the short-term space has got a little bit saturated, at least like just the setting up and like putting some pictures on the wall and, like that, that's a lot harder. So that's where, you come in in order to make this, these houses a lot more exciting.
Right. And there also, it used to be that you could set up a short-term rental relatively easily. You didn't have to put in, thousands of dollars into the design. You didn't have to think so hard about setting up the property. It was a little bit easier before, but now because the markets are a little bit more saturated, and I think there's just a higher expectation from the guests that are using Airbnb, VRBO. They're expecting a well-designed property. They want it to feel like that hotel that maybe they've always wanted to stay, but they've never been able to stay at. And, if they're going to put forth the money and they want the privacy, then they'd rather just put it into, your short-term rental. So it makes it harder to set them up. And there's a lot to it. It's not easy to run a short-term rental, once you have things automated, sure, it's a little easier, but there is a lot of work. You got to grind.
Yeah.
And so I think some people get in and they realize, wow, this is a lot of work. Turning over the property 12 to 15 times a month or whatever the case may be. And they think, oh,
Like having 12 to 15 different tenants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's there's something about that that's really fun because you get to meet so many people and you're providing experiences. You're touching that many more lives, which is really cool, especially if you can create a unique experience for each of your guests. But, it's a lot of work. So sometimes it's like, well, this is a little more work than I wanted to do. I feel like sometimes people get in there and after a couple of months they go, okay, this is exhausting. How do I slow down? And, or maybe for some people, not everyone, but for some people, it may not seem as attainable to scale their portfolio with short-term rentals because of the amount of effort that it can take to really get it off the ground. Once it's off the ground, I think it's a little bit easier. And especially, like I said, if you're able to automate with some of the really great pieces of technology that are out there now. But with that being said, of course, I think medium-term rentals are just a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think it gives you that the thing that I like about it the most, and maybe you feel the same way, is it's like you get that nice hybrid of, it's not, you get to put a little bit of you into the space, and still have that touching people's lives and meeting new people and doing all that, and you get a little bit of that, but it's not 15 times a month.
Yes.
Or so you can, and it's not the same as just having an open space and just renting it out for people to bring in their own stuff and just be regular residents kind of thing. So it's definitely a cool little mid space in between the in between those two strategies. And
yeah, it really kind of bridges them together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have the slight ease of the long-term rental side of things with the hospitality side of the short-term rental things. So you're definitely still in that hospitality industry when you're doing MTRs, but you also don't have to worry about turning over your property so many times and so many different people coming in and out of the home and potentially bothering your neighbors and things of that nature. And then, of course, the biggest thing I think that's pushing people towards MTRs is the regulations. Everybody everywhere seems to be cracking down on these regulations, and it's becoming harder and harder to find properties that are going to be profitable and can actually operate, as STRs. And so in most areas, if you can't do an STR, you can certainly do a midterm rental. And like I said, even if you're renting that from somebody else, they're more likely to say yes if it's on a medium scale.
Yeah, and hopefully, hopefully that kind of sticks and that, there's not so much opposition to the midterm space and having to have a midterm, permit or something like that, because that was, they're talking about a 15% tax on short-term rentals in California. And
it's just going to crush so many businesses that people have been working so hard.
Yeah.
To build.
It's like in some ways, the regulations, if you can figure out how to still make it work, even if with the regulations, it really does lower competition a little bit.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Because you got to really dial in your, and the people that were kind of teetering on the edge, they were maybe maybe making a little bit of profit and, but they really weren't doing it well. I think, which probably the ones that are giving some of the other ones bad names, maybe not every single one, but
right.
that does have an effect of cleaning out, certain things. So some regulation,
it's not all bad.
Yeah. There's,
it's not all bad. There are some good there's some good that's come out of it. It's just with so many markets cracking down, I can see where that would make it more difficult to operate.
Yeah. And I actually do I think there's always a place for short-term rentals. And I think there's a lot of good that short-term rentals have done too. I feel like the hotel industry and the hospitality industry was forced to step up, their game on their offerings and a lot of things they were doing. I didn't stay in hotels for a long time. I would just stay in Airbnbs. And now, I feel like the hotels have definitely stepped up since Airbnb's gotten big, and it kind of forced them to. Same thing what happened with, the taxis and Uber, people the poor taxi drivers. I'm like, dude, I never had a good experience with a taxi, ever. They were gross, they were dirty, the people were rude. the drivers were rude, and then Uber came along and you could rate people, and suddenly there's accountability,
Yep.
and yeah, it decimated the taxi industry, but pretty much now they're all on Uber, and it's I look, I'm not a historian or a pro like on the taxi industry. I just I get why it all went to Uber so fast, and same with Airbnb, where it was like hotels were lagging, like they weren't. They had no competition. They had these permits to just exist in these towns, and nobody could touch them.
Right, and they didn't update their bedding,
Yeah, it was
very
gross.
often, and
even these and then they own the ratings websites, and it was
Yes.
it was a kind of a sham, and so it definitely forced them to up their game, and then now, same thing, with the Airbnbs that are doing well and are having to innovate and get more exciting and get more up their design prowess, which I think is a good thing. I really do. I mean, I don't think a 15% blanket tax is like a great thing, but it is what it is, and maybe we'll see some of these more midterm spaces. Not maybe, we are going to see a lot of these midterm
I think
spaces.
we are.
Come up and they're cool. It's definitely, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm just, naive to it, but is there something that's, because obviously there was vacation rentals before Airbnb was ever a thing.
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, people just rented out their furnished apartments, I guess, but it seems like it's almost like a kind of a new thing,
for medium-term rentals, you mean?
that are focused to certain avatars, that are,
I would say, yeah. I mean, I think that maybe there's more people that are talking about running it as a business, and but it's definitely been around for a long time. So corporate housing has always been a thing, and even for, I mean, travel nursing and traveling medical professionals, that career has been around for a long time. These people, naturally, they needed someplace to stay. So furnished rentals particularly have been around for a while. But just like you're seeing in short-term strategies, that force of having to up the design factor and be a little bit more competitive and market it specifically, in a specific way, you're also seeing that in the medium-term rental strategy as well. So you have to market it. I mean, because the market's going to get saturated. So how are you handling that? And how do you go ahead?
So corporate, I think corporate housing, I think something very sterile. Was it,
Yeah.
were they ever exciting, or are we just rebranding corporate housing, or is it
So corporate housing would have been, essentially businesses that have people that are traveling for one purpose or another, and they want to make sure that they're providing the housing for their employees. And so think of it this way too. Here's one example of corporate housing, but if I own X company in the city of Ontario, there's so much commerce there. And I know that some of my C-suites are, maybe I have branches out of state, and those C-suite executives need to come and, come here, come there. I have a family friend who works for Trader Joe's, and he has to travel tons for his work. And he's going to areas where there's a lot of management and things of that nature. So they have properties that they just have. And they lease it out.
Owns it, or they?
Either that, or they'll go through an agency, and so there's a few different ways that they are going to obtain the rental, or contract out with the rental. But those types of things, they've always been around. There's people that have been traveling, whether they're
I understand that. I mean, is that basically what? Are we kind of rebranding corporate housing, or are we taking it to a next level?
Yes and no. I think some people will still call it corporate housing if that's specifically who they're targeting.
Okay.
So if they're going for corporate housing agencies or going direct business to business to find their tenants and things like that, then they're still probably investing in corporate housing. There's other kinds of medium-term rentals, assisted living facilities, sober living facilities. These are all furnished monthly rentals, and they've always been around. So that's something to note. And you're probably, if you're investing in one of these, you're probably not going to just randomly say oh, I'm an MTR investor. You're probably going to specify what type of strategy within MTR. So it's like a niche within a niche. Corporate housing, I would say, is a niche within a niche, and it's just maybe one of the ones that we maybe have heard of more often in the past.
And is it becoming, I guess, a thing maybe similar to how STR started was, because there's, what's the platform, the main platform for midterms?
Oh, Furnished Finder. Yeah, I think that's a pretty big one.
Is there,
But there's also Corporate Housing by Owner. That's a website specifically for corporate housing.
okay,
Mhm.
I wasn't aware of
And
that.
there's other ones that target. So there's a website called Home Ads, and they target more of the traveling remote workers, those kinds of things. And so there's a few different websites that are out there now. Furnished Finder was probably, I believe they were originally travelnursehousing.com. They still have travelnursehousing.com, and it's like a sister company, if I'm not mistaken. And so initially, I think they were more frequently used by traveling medical professionals. But now insurance agencies, homeowners insurance agencies, or either the homeowner's insurance will contract out a housing agency or something like that, or they'll go on and they'll try to find it themselves, or maybe make recommendations to their clients or whatever it is. They are now using Furnished Finder as well. I've seen corporate housing agencies also listing on Furnished Finder because they're trying to find properties. I have seen properties that are even located next to colleges, schools that are advertising on Furnished Finder now. So there's so many different types of people that come through there. I also get booking inquiries from people who are going through long-term health care. So if you're near a lot of cancer facilities, like if you're near a cancer institute, or City of Temecula has 4 different cancer facilities.
Wow.
So within its kind of borders, if you will. So, if you're around something like that, and, you have a lot of people that may potentially be coming to the area, sometimes these folks travel hours to go through treatment 5 days a week, all day long, all these different kinds of treatments and things like that. And it's exhausting for them to drive back and forth. So they'll end up renting hotels, which are not always convenient for them.
Yeah,
I mean,
if they
they're
put you on the
loud.
4th floor or something right next to the
Imagine
elevator
you got
or
some
something.
kids screaming next to you or something. So if you're able to offer these folks a quiet, more private, comfortable atmosphere, they have their own kitchen, they can bring all of their things that they want to bring and make it their home away from home while they're going through something difficult.
Yeah. So like them as an
better.
avatar, like what, like, is it a lot of like calming and like what?
Yes, yeah. You'd want to specifically for that type of avatar, you'd want to design in a very calming way, light, neutral colors, softer textures, nothing too firm. But you do have to consider the fact that chemotherapy, so anything that we consume in our bodies, it's going to come out through the oils in our bodies, or the oils that our bodies release, fingers, your head, all the things, your legs if you're wearing shorts, that kind of thing. So you have to consider the fact that if you are targeting that particular avatar, you're trying to provide housing specifically for this type of person, there is going to be a little bit more maintenance on your furniture and things like that. You may...
So you don't want to use a lot of fabrics, I'm imagining.
Actually, leather can be worse.
Really?
Yes. Number one, it's more of an investment up front. And chemotherapy, the oils that we secrete through our bodies, that sounds so awful, but
No,
that is what we do.
What happens.
Chemotherapy can literally char your leather. It will burn and eat the leather.
Wow.
It's they're powerful chemicals. So you just have to be aware of that when you're going into it. So it's actually maybe not, I would say, provide them a great place to rest, but just be mindful that you're probably going to have to, move those pieces of furniture a little bit more frequently than not.
So there's no something you can.
You
like,
can
coat
always
your
provide
fabric in or
you
something.
could provide
or-
furniture covers. So you can provide covers, or I like to provide a lot of throw blankets, so they can put a throw blanket. In many cases, they often, I feel like, will, just because you have to consider what their bodies are feeling like, what they're going through, and so for many of them, they're very sensitive to smell. They get very, very cold very, very quickly. They're weak, so you don't want to have so much space between point A for them to sit and point B for them to sit. If you know that from the sofa to the bed, it's going to be a little bit of a walk, find a space in between where there's a bench or a chair or a stool where they can stop and take a break, or consider having, if if you're going specifically for this type of avatar, consider having a couple handholds or things like that. These are things that when they see it, they're going to go, oh gosh, that would make my life so much easier. And they'd be more likely to book you. And then, like I said, when they're running cold a lot, you can have lots of blankets and things like that for them. And then as far as the scents, no scented candles, no air fragrances, air fresheners. And then also I would even go out on a limb and say include air, definitely humidifiers, that's going to be a necessity, but air purifiers as well. So you can get them small for smaller spaced rooms, or you can get the larger ones for more of like that whole home great room area where it's like, family living dining room, larger air purifier for that space. And there's also certain kinds of diffusers that can help to clean the air. There are specific plants that you can use in your property that will clean the air for them as well. So you'll just want to consult a professional, because some plants take the oxygen out of the air at night, and some plants put more oxygen into the air at night.
Really?
Yeah, you have to know if it's a nocturnal plant or not.
You're like blowing my mind. Every single one thing you just named, I was just like, wow, that is really, you put a lot of time in that. That was, that's why people hire you to design these things. And they're why they should hire you to design these things. Cause I would have been like, I would have never thought of pretty much anything you just said.
Actually, forgot.
Other than like, maybe like, a one level home would make sense. You probably wouldn't want a lot of stairs.
No, not a lot of stairs.
But beyond that, like everything else, I would have, cause I would have been like, I would have done like, I would have done things comfortably, but I would have never thought about all those little details, especially the plants. Like,
I know, it is important, and it's hard because we usually don't include a lot of real or live plants in rentals, because you can't guarantee that people are going to take care of them, and you might put a lot of money into these plants, and then they're not.
Yeah, the watering system breaks and they're dead before anybody says anything.
Exactly. So, but some things to note if you're going to specifically work with this type of guest is. They're very health conscious.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They know that they're putting toxins into their body in order to give their body a little bit more life, and they want to avoid putting any additional toxins in. So some of them are very conscious about their water and making sure that it's filtered properly. So if you were to create a home specifically for this type of guest, I would say test your water, test for any mold or any other potential, air pollutants. And then those plants, that's one of the things that I'm speaking of in the air purifiers. It's just removing a lot of the pollutants from the air, and you use that for your marketing, and you let them know that this is a safe space, this is a healthy space.
Yeah. They
don't like a lot of additional toxins, like I said. So all of the cleaning agents that you provide should be non-toxic, organic. They sometimes will drink coffee, but in most cases I find that they don't. So teas are very important. Many times they have a list of things that they're going to bring with them. So it's more just like providing them a space that they can stay organized in, and that's just functional and comfortable. But most importantly, that it's healthy, a healthy environment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm still like, I'm blown away by like all the information there. That's really cool. And you have this, you have little things like that, that make the difference for pretty much all of these avatars. Whether we're talking cancer patients, traveling nurses, traveling athletes, and don't spill all your secrets today. But
I learn about new avatars almost daily.
Yeah,
honestly, I do. So I've been focusing on this for a little over a year. And
building these avatars specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, educating myself on the different types of people. As soon as I receive a booking request and I'm like, oh, they're coming for a more unique reason, or whatever the case may be, or I haven't heard somebody tell me that yet. What kind of person is this? And then I delve into their demographics, psychographics, and all of the things, and that just comes out of marketing as well. Like, I own my own business. I have to know these things as well, about who I'm working with and who I want to work with. So out of marketing for my own business and coming to find, who I prefer to work with, or who I know that I will work best with, came a little bit of this knowledge. And essentially I put the same steps to the guest avatar. And I said, well, okay, so if we're renting to somebody, who do we want to rent to, and who would we best serve? And that's ultimately what it's about. designing specifically for your guest avatars.
Yeah.
Who are you best going to serve? Set up the property so that you can serve them in the best way possible. And you don't have to say no to other people by any means.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
But know that the property is done that way. And then you're marketing to them. Your marketing efforts go out specifically in areas where you're going to reach them best. And it takes research. That's it.
Yeah.
So I try to do that every time I find a new.
That's why people, like I said, like would really they should hire you to take all this knowledge and put these houses together, because it's not just putting up some pretty pictures and with some like motivational thing like you can do this. It's like it's a or like putting the Target decals on or whatever of like it's way more than that.
Yeah.
And it's those little touches that make people feel home. People that they would put in their own house. And doing it, I think probably the struggle too is doing it within a budget of what I guess will work for the property. Is that like or is it
Yeah, I think that you want to know what you're going to get out of the property. So the first thing I typically do when I'm looking into a new property is see what the comps are. What are the prices that are in the area? And you're not going to put a $10,000 a month rental in Garden Grove, for instance. We knew that we weren't going to get that. That's just the person that's going to pay $10,000 likely isn't going to go to Garden Grove. So we knew that it would be a little lower than that. And so, but if you're able to narrow down a price range of X and Y, then we know we want to be a little bit higher because we're going to provide a better design. It's going to be much more intentional than probably most of what's out there because I do what I do. So we know that we're going to be in that, like, I don't like to be in the 100 percentile because I don't feel like there's quite as much demand. But if you could be in that 85 to 95, maybe 85, 90, where you could take somebody that was in the 70s, their price budget was 75th percentile, but they see how much they love it and they can stretch it. Oops, sorry. Stretch it just a little bit. I talk with my hands a lot. Stretch it just a little bit to be able to, actually rent your place. And then they're so excited because they're like, wow, I haven't stayed in a place like this because that wasn't previously attainable to them. So we kind of keep that in mind. So if we know that we're not going to be able to hit, or we know that once we know the price that we're going to be able to hit per night, that's going to tell us how much we should invest in the property. And it's not to say that you can't have a nice property if you have a lower budget. But I just find it hard to understand how people are able to furnish homes for like $3,000 or $5,000. That's not been my experience with all of the amenities and things that we try to include.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be a very thrifty Craigslist.
Yeah, maybe so. And I can see where an investor might do that for themselves. But
people figured that out. That came out a long time ago. They have entire businesses where they just
I will say I'm all about
Craigslist
sustainability. If we could prevent furniture, more and more furniture from going to the landfill, I am all about sustainability. And if we can refinish something, that's great. But we can't take the Craigslist bed that's from 1970 and put it in our unit and expect that it's just going to go with everything else. And more often than not, I find that we need to refinish it, and then that refinishing costs a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What I kind of want to like pivot to like design stuff. So, because we only have, we've got about 10 more minutes. So, what's like a design wise, like if you were going to put these spaces together, like what's like one like faux pas that you see people do a lot of that you're like, okay, like that trend needs to just like go away.
The all white kitchen.
The all white kitchen.
Yeah. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I had an all white kitchen and it wasn't that long ago. It was just a couple of years ago. But it's, as far as in the world of interior design, it's a little dated now. So white cabinets, white subway backsplash, and white countertops, it's going out. So if you can bring in some warmth, bring in some color, and more importantly, bring in some character. There are instances where the white on white can work. I'm personally a little bit over the subway backsplash, but also, if you just put it in, don't rip it out now. Again, we're talking about sustainability. We don't need to throw more stuff in the landfill. And you just invested money. So at the end of the day, we want to be smart with our investments. And if we just put money into it, then we're going to work around it. But that doesn't mean that you can't paint your cabinets. Use the same cabinets, or, if they're not that old and they're still working for you, you can paint them, and we can add different hardware and things like that to give it more character. So
yeah, refacing's been a which a lot of people don't even consider it anymore. They just rip it all out and put new ones in.
Another thing that I wish that people, and I guess I get it because budget wise, you maybe have to do it this way, but I wish people would stop putting in fiberglass shower walls.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, man, you have so much opportunity in a bathroom. Like, your bathroom can make or break your listing, and you have so much opportunity. People get ready in the bathroom. They use the bathroom probably the most out of the entire space. Like, how many times a day are they going into the bathroom? And they shower in there, and they go get ready. And so they're spending so much time in there. You have so much opportunity to make that bathroom feel more spa-like or more edgy or whatever it is. You can give it so much character if you can, use that shower space, because otherwise there's nowhere else to put it.
Yeah, we for years, when every house we flipped, it was like, I worked for a tile backer board company for 8 years, so I spent a lot of time around tile, and so we go to do these bathrooms, and it was like a $500 or $600 difference in between, because it's not really that much cheaper to put in a fiberglass surround, than it is to do tile. And some people are like, what? Because there's a lot of prep work and everything that goes into putting. You don't just screw the fiberglass up to the existing wall and call it a day. Like,
Exactly.
you gotta come over with the drywall on the lip, and to do it properly. You will see a lot of those, in older houses or in mobile homes a lot, where they'll just screw the thing right onto the wall and then put a piece of or a piece of molding, on the top, and that's completely wrong. And so, and at the end of the day, it was maybe $500 to $1,000 more to put a nice, to put tile in, and it goes so much further. And even if it's just basic subway tile, and a brick or square or whatever pattern, looks so much better than a fiberglass. But
it does. There's more, like I said, there's more character, and you have more options to stand out that way. And, and I prefer a shower door to a curtain rod in a rental, because the curtain rods can get yanked on, they can fall, the water can still come out if they don't, put the liner inside and all the things. So shower doors just kind of keep things where they're supposed to be. The water stays where it's supposed to be. And, as long as you're getting in there, like I said, to maintain the property, then you keep that thing nice and clean, and you don't have to worry about replacing it too much. Whereas the shower curtain, I would change out the liner for every new guest, because that's just kind of gross.
For a midterm.
Yeah, for a midterm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah. I was like, my brain went to short term. I'm like, wow, that's a
lot
of
money.
liners.
That's where you go to the 99-cent store and get the liner, I guess.
The ones I put in, you can wash them. They detach on the thing.
Yes,
and then
that's great.
So back to the kitchen real quick. What is what's the new thing? I mean, the all white with the subway tile, or the nice white marble, or I know for a little while it seemed like things were going to the gray cabinets with maybe the white granite or marble still.
I'm seeing custom paint colors more and more. I'm seeing custom paint colors. So a little less of your stock, black, white, gray, even your wood finishes. Of course, if it's a custom wood, then, and you can do them solid wood, then I'd go that route all day, every day, because they're probably going to last you a little bit longer. But I am seeing, with a lot of the higher end design homes, I'm seeing a lot of custom paint colors, so that you can get, again, just
on the
a
cabinets?
little bit more unique on the cabinets themselves. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is the two-tone thing, like the lower cabinet, is different from the upper still a thing, or?
I see it more, I feel like, in modern spaces where they'll maybe do wood lowers and then painted uppers. I I find that I see that more often on like full slab doors where they're just really smooth, and that lends itself towards a more modern style. But I do also see two tones where maybe perimeter cabinets are in one color and the island is in an alternate color, or you
like
can
that.
put wood on the perimeter and then color on the island, or vice versa. So
I
yeah.
like that. I like that. Okay, cool. I'll stop grilling you on design stuff. I'm sure I have what I've like every room. I'm like, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? But
Oh, we'll have to do
I'll save
another
stuff.
podcast that's all design related.
Exactly. So let's step back real quick to the financial independence to real estate part. So
Yes.
I know we talked about design and MTRs and everything like that. What is like? Is financial independence, is real estate, like, is that all, obviously you're very in real estate from the design and running midterm rentals and stuff like that. But is it something you love to do and it's your job, or you want to do like something like is financial independence there? Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think I would break that up into two ways because it's funny. I'm sure most people that you've had on the podcast have said like, well, when I invest, I do X, Y, and Z. And while I have partnered with investors, and I, have now host property for an investor and things like that, I don't have my own properties as of yet. At one point, I will, but I've been busy with designing other people's properties and analyzing other people's properties. So I'm just going to keep helping people build their dreams. So for me, that's part of what it is, and I am creating my own financial independence in doing so because this is my own business. So I am starting to secure that. But for me specifically, part two there, financial independence just means not having to worry about where the next paycheck comes from and not having to, I will still tell my kids no when we pass by the dollar spot at Target. But if I didn't have to every time, that'd be great. Or, or just being able to splurge here and there on things for myself. I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. I don't buy things for myself ever. When was the last time I went on vacation? I have no clue. So, pretty soon my kids will be grown, and then what are we going to do? We'd like to be able to, my husband and I would like to be able to take vacations and do things like that. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be working full time, grinding hard, sun up to sundown when I'm 70. So having retirement and things like that. And when I'm an entrepreneur, that means saving now and having investments now so that I can do that down the road, because I don't have a company that's putting into my 401k. It's just me. So that's financial independence for me.
Cool. So what with Mumford Designs is your company? What's the plan there? Is it going to be a one-woman show, or do you want to build out a team? Or
I am already starting to build my team.
Cool.
So in the last 30 days, I'd say we've been getting busier and busier, and as more and more property audits come in, some of these property audits turn into full-time or full design jobs. And so I have an assistant that I work with now, and we'll probably have to bring her on full time shortly. And then we'll have to start adding on. And if we continue to host more and more properties, then I'll likely have a complete separate side of the business just for hosting that. I like to run my properties almost as if like there's a built-in concierge. So I can't, I'm doing it all right now, but I won't be able to do it all, down the line. It's like I need other people that are going to focus their time and efforts on learning everything they can about a specific market and all of the best places to get Chinese food. And well, I don't like Chinese food. I like Thai food. So where am I going to get my Thai food? And oh, by the way,
I could do that
this
research.
grocery store
I
is
could
better.
do like hands-on, like eating it.
All
research.
the food. I'm telling you, every time I go to somebody's property, every time I'm setting up a property, I make it a point. All of the days that I go there, I eat some meal there. And I just kind of drive around and see what's there, or I'll go to like Yelp and I'll take a look at the reviews and then I go check it out for myself or order or different things. But you have to.
Yeah.
I found cool, like a bunch of food trucks that pop up over by my Garden Grove property.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. You got to put that in the guidebook, So
Yeah, it would be like, that would be my avatar, like the the foodie, that
foodie.
wants to like go out and
I'm telling you, if we
like it's great. It has a great kitchen and everything, but like I'm probably gonna just go find the
should
best Thai
do
food
a
that's right
house
there.
that is like all foodie. So like chef's kitchen to the T.
Mm-hmm.
It can even include like private chef
Yeah.
chef class, and then you just tell them all the cool places that are local
Mm-hmm.
that they're gonna get, but like low key places that they're not gonna
Yeah, like
they're not
that's the
gonna
secrets.
pop up
Like,
everywhere. Absolutely,
that aren't gonna be an hour
best
wait or
tacos
anything. Like, yeah.
right here.
Yeah,
Grandma's
hold
making
off.
the tacos. She
Yeah,
makes her own
exactly.
tortillas. That's where you go.
See, you got my avatar down. Done.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm with you on that one.
Cool. So I like it. We're gonna have to figure out where is like. Well, we'll talk about that offline.
Okay, I was gonna say you gotta go to Temecula for the food scene.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think my cousin lives down there, and we've gone down to visit her a couple times, but I really haven't been down there all that much.
There's just everything.
I hear
There's
it's
everything
really
out
nice, really nice. I love their house. So
I've enjoyed being out there, but also I mean like LA food scene, that they've got a crazy good food scene.
Yeah.
So
I know, I have
there's
like
lots of
I
little
probably
pockets.
have I don't know like 600 restaurants and stuff that I've just saved into Google Maps over the years of like want to go.
Oh
And,
yeah.
They're always like, there's like none in San Bernardino. There's like 10. And then they're like all in LA. And then when I'm in LA, for some reason or another, I ended up going in and out because I'm in a hurry or something. And, but yeah, I definitely like when I travel, that's what I want to do.
You're
is
not
go
far
to,
from
like,
Redlands. You could always go to Redlands.
Yeah.
They have some
Yeah,
pretty
we
cool
could've.
places.
Redlands a couple
There's
times.
a pizza that has like pasta on top of the pizza.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, so
Nice.
good. I'll
Is
tell-
that downtown, like Old Town Redlands?
Yes.
Right
yeah.
there by
I forget
there's
what.
some restaurant I went to by the Crab Boil, and then there's like another.
I want to
Mexican
say
place.
it's near the Speakeasy, but I'll find it and I'll send it to you because their pizza is so good. I think it's called like the Annie Oakley or something.
Hmm.
They have so many. There's one I think that has mashed potatoes on the pizza. I could be wrong.
That
but
would be new.
It's
That would be very against my
but
keto
it's all
lifestyle
so
right now,
delicious.
but-
Oh well, yeah. You don't go to a pizza place if you're keto.
Yeah,
If you're on a keto
you got a
diet.
cheat day every like few days. Yeah, I'm not like religiously keto. I'm just like when I can be.
You know,
So
when I'm thinking about it.
yeah, yep. So you recently became a sponsor of the Inland Empire Real Estate
did.
Investment Club, and I know you've been coming around and doing like hosting or speaking at the Fire Focus thing. How's the sponsorship been for you so far?
Great. I mean, I think we just announced it last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did the speaking event the same night. And holy cow, this last week has been incredibly busy.
Nice.
Yeah, I've probably like tripled the amount of property audits that I would typically do in a month. And I did it in a week.
Awesome.
So that's where I say now I'm in a position where I have to scale. So especially if these turn, go full design and things like that, then it just gets busier and busier. So I've enjoyed it.
Awesome. And as far as like marketing, like is that what do you normally do for marketing, and is that like how is that lined up with other things you've tried?
So I do a little bit of social media marketing online. So I wouldn't say my Instagram necessarily is direct marketing to my consumer quite so much. I don't reach as many people there, but it is a great platform for me to share tips and things like that with people. And then more so I find on Facebook, I tend to get a lot. So direct marketing through Facebook is where I do probably more of my efforts. And then just networking events.
Cool.
So in person and things like that, finding those groups on Facebook and in person has been the biggest thing. And it's similar. It's just now I'm reaching more people,
Nice.
Nice.
What's been like the biggest, I guess, bang for the buck or result wise, like of everything you've marketed with at the moment?
Well, I haven't had a boost as quickly as I did in the last week
Okay.
with being, I'm sure it was a combination of the actual Fire Focus event and then also, being released. I don't know what, am I being released into the wild as a sponsor,
Yeah.
so just being announced, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we sent out that email to everybody, and that's it's good. We're we're definitely very supportive of our sponsors. So was great to have you speak at the Fire Focus event and have you on the show. So if people want to get a hold of you for design questions or to hire you or whatever, midterm rentals, short term, all the stuff that you do, what's the name of your company again, and how do we get a hold of you?
So we're Mumford Designs, MUMFORD DESIGNS, and we're just mumforddesigns.com. There's a contact form where you're able to reach out to me directly, and then also on Instagram. I'm on Instagram almost every day, and that's at Mumford_designs.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have you, join again. And again, this has been the FIREchat podcast. I'm your host, Rich Rice. We do this, we're releasing new episodes basically every Monday morning, so check us out. And then if you want to come out to more events or figure out more stuff that the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club is doing on a pretty much weekly basis now, almost daily, just go to iereic.org and check us out. So in the meantime, we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And thanks, Bree, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.